Hey everyone, it's the Grumpy Meeple, and I am back again with another update on the Wild Assent Lavon Rising Gamefound Campaign. I have to apologize. I meant to post this prior to the end of the campaign, but just got my dates mixed up basically, and I hadn't looked at it for a day or two, and all of a sudden it was closed. So the project is funded. I'm sure you're still able to late pledge it or whatever. And they raised 809,000, which is very respectable. So there's been a lot of changes to the campaign over the duration. So let's dig into it and take a look. So first of all, Lazy Squire just continues to push the envelope on how much bonus crap they will give you if you either follow, pledge during the campaign, pledge early bird, maintain a pledge until the end of the campaign, etc. They were giving away another miniature called the Wildwood Elk, which is a gorgeous looking mini with all the associated cards and everything if you backed during the campaign. So between this, the early bird, and the follow bird, if you want to call it that, that's three pretty amazing looking miniatures that they're throwing in with your pledge. And I think this is great. I love seeing a company lean into this and really give people a reason to back during the campaign, to not late pledge, etc. And so I'd love to see more of this from more companies going forward. So very nice. Very nice that they're not taking people for granted, for taking their backers for granted. We're going to skip past all this because we've already discussed it, just pictures of the game, testimonials, and such. We can get right to the rewards. So they added a couple pledges because they added a couple of expansions, and we're going to get into that. So you do still have your core pledge, $119, gets you the original game and all of the stretch goals from that campaign and all of the Wave 1 stretch goals from this campaign. So that's something to consider. With this pledge, you're getting 2 campaigns worth of stretch goals and early birds and such. So this is a pretty significant value, in my opinion, especially at that price, $119. That's really not bad for the amount of stuff you're going to get out of this. And then they have the Shadows of the Silverstrum pledge, which gives you that same stuff, as well as Shadows of the Silverstrum and the new box that they're adding, which is called Dangers of the Wild, which adds, I believe, like the nightmare mode and includes more miniatures so that you can add more baddies to your battles. And then you had the Lavon Rising pledge. Those were the original pledge levels that were available, which comes with all of that stuff and Lavon Rising's expansions and the Wave 2 stretch goals. So this pledge gets you 7 boxes worth of stuff, which is crazy. Then they went through and they added some pledges for second-hand backers, which is a really awesome thing to do. And I had pinged them and asked them if they were intending to do this, and they did. So they added. Let's see what order kind of makes sense here to go through those. Probably right here. So they added one that comes with Shadows of the Silverstrum and the new expansions, but not the core box, I don't believe. Yeah, Dangers of the Wild, Stretch Goal box. Oh, this one actually comes with the new expansions too. Never mind. So anyways, they added this for secondhand backers, so a discount. So $329 for everything minus the core box for secondhand backers. This same pledge with the core box is $449. There's a lot of pledges here, so it's a little confusing. Bear with me. Here we go. The second-hand backer, Lavon Rising only. So if you already have Shadows of the Silverstrim and the core box, and you have bought them secondhand, you could get Lavon Rising and the associated boxes and all the stretch goals for $169, which is not a bad deal. I had the opportunity to buy a secondhand copy during this campaign, which is why I had pinged them. And I thought about taking this pledge because the secondhand copy was going to be about $200 and no shipping. I was going to pick it up. Pretty reasonable because it came with Silverstrim as well. But, I'm the kind of person, I like all my miniatures to match and everything. And I didn't want to have the scale issues between the two sets. And I don't love resin miniatures in general. So, I decided not to go for it. But if I had done it, then it would have been a pretty good deal because I could have gotten all this stuff when the pledge ships and had the core game to play with right now. They added one that's similar that includes Silverstrim and Lavon Rising. They added one that just has all the new expansions. One that has Silverstrim and all the new expansions. I mean, it just keeps going on and on here. And then finally, they added a standard pledge, another kind of normal pledge, the Wildfire pledge, which includes everything in the Lavon Rising pledge, plus Waterways of the Wild and Daughters of Drekkeith, and the additional dice set. So this includes basically everything. Core games, stretch goals, Silverstrim, Lavon Rising, stretch goals 2, Dangers of the Wild, Waterways, dice set, Drekkeith for $449. So lots of options, lots of pledges. This is a lot of money to put into any one game, but it's out there as an option. And I assume you'll be able to late pledge or upgrade your pledge in the pledge manager. So let's talk about what all the stretch goals were, because there's a ton of awesome stuff here. So basically, they broke them up into two waves. You had the Wave 1 stretch goals, which you would get with any pledge, and you have the Wave 2 stretch goals, which you would only get with Lavon Rising, or one of the pledges that contains Lavon Rising, basically. So, bunch of miniatures. This guy's Wave 2, the Lake Thrasher. He didn't get unlocked during the campaign, but they did end up unlocking him. So you're getting the Lake Thrasher. You're getting a Stormsunder crossover. I love these crossovers. I love that companies are coming together to take these awesome characters that they have and move them between games. And you could take this and use it as a legendary K-Pop in, Stormsunder. Just what an awesome idea. And that's a Wave 1 stretch goal. The Druidess is a crossover with a game called Legends of Keepers, which I'm not familiar with, but that's also a Wave 1 stretch goal. You've got Nyx from Madara, who I'm very familiar with. This is just an incredible miniature, and also a Wave 1 stretch goal. You've got Giraldez and Melon, real world crossover. I'm not familiar with. I don't know if that's a game or if they literally mean real world, like the physical universe. But that's another Wave 1 goal. You can see most of these are Wave 1 goals. It's going to be like the new monsters and multiple monsters that are Wave 2. Here's Vorn from Chronicles of Drunagor. I can't freaking wait to get my hands on this, because I will absolutely use this. Because the Drunagor miniatures are good, but they're not, I don't think they're Stormsunder level. And so that's going straight into my copy of Chronicles of Drunagor for sure. The Demon Spine Headhunters are Wave 2. So again, when you got your monsters and if they're giving you multiple copies, those are Wave 2. The Bear Vanguard from Archvillain Games. Wow, what an awesome miniature. This looks very reminiscent of a guy from Oathsworn, actually. But in a really beautiful looking miniature. Wave 1. Kajara from Primal the Awakening, another game that I'm super excited about. This is also wave 1 and another stunning miniature. You got some equipment cards. I probably won't get into that too much. I think those are, some of them are wave 2. Let's see. I think that one is wave 1. You've got Altos the Bard, wave 1. Some path cards. These are wave 2. This awesome miniature is wave 2, unfortunately. Vanessa Von Brandt from Stormsunder, wave 1. Beautiful looking render. Their minis get pretty close to their renders. The game trays, which is awesome and applies to both waves. These crevice creepers are going to be wave 2. Very cool looking, very creepy looking. Get some workers for wave 1. Your paths again are wave 2. Some boneback boars, wave 2. You've got this guy, Raketh. He's wave 1. Looks really cool. Love this. Look at that hammer. That is amazing. Ah, so amazing. New equipment cards. Comes with wave 1. More workers with wave 1. The Godfall Unicorn for wave 1. Beautiful again. Daniel Stoika from Order of Vampire Hunters, which I have not played, but this guy looks amazing. God, I just like these miniatures are so amazing. And then Wart from Load, which is a game that I had bought and got rid of pretty quickly because I don't know. I don't play those kinds of games really as much as I think I'm going to when I'm looking at the miniatures. So tons of stuff, even just in wave 1. So if all you did was back the core pledge, you're getting 2 campaigns worth of stretch goals in most of the campaigns or stretch goals from this campaign. Then you've got your add-ons. The Dalkurth War Rider was the follow present, basically. So if you followed the campaign early, you already got that. The Mist Terror was the early bird. So if you pledged during the campaign, you got that. You've got the art and lore books. These are definitely interesting to me, especially if they're shipping in wave 1. Yeah, I was going to say, the problem with these, like I didn't end up getting the art and lore book for Stormsunder because it's shipping in wave 2, and everything else I bought for Stormsunder is shipping in wave 1, and I don't want to have 2-wave shipping. So I'll definitely get this art book because it looks pretty dope. The graphic novel ships in wave 2, so I won't be getting that. And then you had a couple of new expansions. So Waterways of the Wild is an expansion that basically just adds more stuff to every mode of the game. So you're getting new miniatures, including an XL one, 2 new Ascent / Seekers, a new double-sided game board. This is very cool. And these game boards, wait till I show you, like they are gorgeous. The one at least is insane with new terrain, new scout cards, creatures, wild cards. You can use them in the hunt and arena modes. But they're not, I don't think they integrate with the campaign version of the game, if that makes sense. $49, 27, like I said, 107 cards, punch boards, tokens, and they don't list the boards here, which is weird, but okay. This guy, like, just an avalanche of amazing looking miniatures. Look at this thing. Some more terrain, which I always appreciate. And then this gigantic, just incredible looking nightmare thing. More terrain, beautiful. And then look at this map board, like stunning. This blows my mind. I love the shadow of the kind of frilly bushes here, and then just just is so beautiful. Like the gradation of the water as you get into the deeps and stuff, and the waves crashing. That is an incredible board. This one's a little more generic. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. It's like a path through a dark wooded kind of arcane forest. It's very cool looking, but this one, like, I was like flabbergasted when I saw this thing. This one is just, cool. So you've got that expansion, and then you've got the Daughters of Draketh. Now this expansion is by far the most interesting, and that is because it's wave 2. I didn't notice that. Okay, so I'm doing wave 2 either way. So this expansion adds a new narrative-based campaign to Wild Assent, and it only requires the core game. So a lot of people have been complaining about the fact that Lavon Rising is adding this campaign element to the game, but it's not a standalone. You have to have all the previous stuff, including Shadows of the Silver Strem, and it's pretty expensive. It's a lot of stuff, but you're basically, to get Lavon Rising, you're spending $400 on this game, and you have no choice if you want the campaign element of the game, except that they added a expansion so you can just back the core game and add Daughters of Draketh and get a taste of that campaign play, of that narrative play, without having to get the whole Lavon Rising pledge. And so this is awesome, and this is actually, I think, what I'm going to end up doing. And I'll talk about what I think I'm going to pledge and what I pledged during the campaign. But this adds a new narrative-based campaign. Blah, 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 blah. Choose a side. Oh, okay, yeah, great. So you get to choose a side and adventure deeper into the wilds, battling new creatures and mercenaries, ships with wave 2, and requires the Wild Assent core game only. Awesome. So $50 gets you 17 miniatures, including an exile miniature, 101 cards, punch boards, and tokens. And again, like, these miniatures are just stunning. This thing, I don't even know what to say about these miniatures at this point. Like, they are just gorgeous. Look at this guy playing the flute and like summoning or leading his little dragon pet. Unreal, these miniatures. Like, I can't even believe it. And then whatever is going on here, I guess they didn't have a render ready for that, so they just have some artwork. But very cool looking. And then it comes with a campaign book, which looks hardbound in this picture. Right? It's hard to imagine that it actually is. But that'll be really cool if it is, because that's like a nice, component upgrade. So this is great that they added this. They have so many pledges already, but it would have been nice if they had actually just made a pledge core box and Daughters of Draketh, call it like the campaign pledge or something like that, so that people understood that they could just get this and then get that campaign play without going $400 in on the game. And then they also added a dice set. Not really going to get into that. I don't think there's anything unusual about them. And then the Stormbrush option is back from Stormsunder. And so basically what this is like a paint job, similar to if you've watched my Zombicide 2nd edition painting guide, where I just basically lightly washed the miniatures to bring out the details. This looks very similar to me. They're not painted, and if you're a painter, you probably don't want this because you're just going to have to undo it all. You definitely don't want this because you're literally going to have to just spray over it and start from scratch. But if you want something that will really bring out the detail and make these miniatures shine, and you don't want to have to do it yourself like I did with Zombicide, then this is a pretty reasonable price. But you have to be careful with these wave versions of it because they're very specific about what they include. So the core game for $49 includes storm brushing for the core game, the Wave 1 stretch goals, the Dalkira Ward Rider, Mist Terror, and Wildwood Elk. So you have to get this to get that stuff painted. And you have to be getting all of these. So if you pay for this, but you didn't follow the campaign early and you're not going to add on the Dalkira Ward Rider, you're paying for something you're not getting because they're not going to do this. Same thing with the Mist Terror and the Wildwood Elk. So that's where it gets tricky. Is you have to make sure that if you're concerned about getting your maximum value, you have to make sure that you only pay for the painting that's going to include exactly what you're getting. So everybody has to get this. Like, they're not iterative. They're not additive. This does not include this. Everybody would have to get this. And then for Stormbrush Wave 1, it's going to include... Oh, it does include the core game. Okay. Never mind. Take that back. This just includes the core game, and this includes the entirety of Wave 1, which is super interesting, actually. Core game, Wave 1 stretch goals, Silverstrem, Dangers of the Wild, Dalkira, Mist Terror, and Wildwood. So, again, like, you wouldn't get this if you didn't get the pledge that includes Shadows of the Silverstrem and Dangers of the Wild, because you're losing out on a lot of value there. But it is nice that it does include everything. I thought you actually had to add both of these. And then Wave 2 includes Lavon Rising. So Wave 2 does not include the original. So again, that's a little confusing. This includes everything in Wave 1. This includes everything in Wave 2. This includes just the core game and the stretch goals, because all that stuff comes in one box, to my understanding. Except the Wave 1 stretch goals, yeah. So if you go all in on everything, then you have to get both of these. Which still isn't crazy for, getting every single miniature. There's got to be 150 miniatures here at least, maybe more. Stormbrushed like this, it is a really cool effect. You can look on YouTube. There's tons of videos of people showing off this Stormbrush effect. Just bear in mind that you could do something pretty similar with a pretty minimal amount of personal effort. If you just did something like what I did with my Zombicide miniatures. So check out the channel to see that guide and decide if this is for you or not. But it is a cool option. It just, it sucks that it's not a little more granular, because I would actually probably get this if I could include the Daughters of Draketh here, but I can't. So I would have to either have most of my miniatures Stormbrush, but not the Daughters of Draketh, which is not happening because I want them all to be the same, or I'd have to either increase my pledge or pay a bunch of money just to get maybe that one box and Waters of the Wild Stormbrush, which is also not happening. So it'd be nice if they broke it out and had, Stormbrush expansions or something like that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Because you just, and I don't blame them. It's just administratively, there's already so many different options there. And here you're just, you're just looking through all the stuff that comes in all the different boxes for this absurdly huge game. And on 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 and on. Let me see. I do want to check if they ever updated the shipping information, because I was seeing some videos online on YouTube from people who were confused about what this shipping includes. In the sense of, people were saying that it was going to be $27 for the core game, $27 to $37 in the US, and then an additional $37 to $47 in Shadow of the Silverstrem, and on top of that, another $47 for Lavon Rising, so like $150 or something to ship it, which I don't think is actually accurate. None of this is accurate, it's all an estimate, but I don't think that that's what they intended, and really they should have added the word pledge here, basically. because I saw other people posting videos where they were saying like this is going to be an insane amount of money to ship, and I even reached out to Lazy Squire and told them that was happening and said, hey, you might want to update this, and I don't think they paid any attention to it. So, but I hope they didn't lose any sales based off that, because I'm pretty sure that this Lavon Rising, I don't know, these shipping. Yeah, well, Lavon Rising is a little different because it's going to ship in 2 waves, but I'm pretty sure that this includes, the previous stuff. I've never seen a campaign that didn't like iteratively increase like that. So I guess we'll see. But they do call out based on estimates on weight and size of the game boxes without the stretch goals. So these are just estimates, but they could have been a little clearer about what exactly what you're paying for here. It does say game boxes without stretch goals, but again, does that mean that just Shadows of the Silverstrim and Dangers of the Wild is another $47? I don't know. They should have been more clear. So, but anyways, in general, an incredible campaign. I think this game looks pretty cool, and I am definitely backing it. At the moment, though, I'm not going all in on it. And I'm kind of waffling on that. I might end up, like backing a game like this, like to be honest and to be like kind of, brutally honest about it, there's virtually no chance that you will ever lose money on something like this, like a big, heavy miniatures game that's been generally well received. So whether you pledge the core pledge, you pledge the wildfire pledge, if you don't like the game, you're likely going to end up making money in the long run on the whole thing anyways. Because you take this and break it up and sell, the pieces, and people who didn't pledge, will be willing to pay for it. So that's where I waffle, because I don't know that I want all this stuff for this particular game, particularly because Stormsunder exists, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But I may end up just backing everything because I have that knowledge that, this is not going to go to waste. It's essentially an investment, and so bear that in mind. But for now, what I ended up pledging was the core pledge with the intention of adding on the art and lore book and the Daughters of Draketh for sure. So you're looking at, just under $200 basically for my full pledge. I'm already getting the Dalkurta and the Mist Terror. And I'm waffling on Waterways of the Wild. That board is so beautiful. I would damn near back this whole game just to get that board. But we'll have to see on that. So that's my current thought. And I base that just off the fact that the majority of the stretch goals are Wave 1, which I think is the right thing to do. But it does make Lavon Rising a slightly less tempting, offer, because I know I'm already getting a ton of stretch goals, and I'm okay with missing a half dozen, miniatures or whatever, a dozen miniatures even, if I'm saving $300. And I do also think that they misstepped a little bit with the structure of the campaign and the enormity of Lavon Rising, and they obviously know that, which is why they added this, to get people to pledge just the core game, but to get people who want the campaign play but don't want to spend $400 to pledge at all, they had to add Daughters of Draketh and give you the option to get that campaign play out of it at a lower price point. I'm kind of projecting there. I'm guessing. I don't have any knowledge of why they did it, but that's what this move reads as to me. Again, it's hard to say that you're not going to get your value out of this. If you're a miniature painter, just get all this stuff. If that's like what you do, you like to paint minis for D&D and stuff, because these guys, their miniatures are incredible, and man, these boards are really cool looking though. Freaking Lavon Rising. But and you're getting just a ton of miniatures, but this is a really brutal price point for any expansion to any game, and that's ultimately what this is because it requires all that other stuff. If this were a standalone game, beautiful, insta-back, and I probably wouldn't even bother with the core game. And that's another thing that they should have considered, because you don't need a ton of additional stuff to make this the core game. I'm assuming you would need some dice, some cards, and some punch board, basically. It's not like, because it comes with all its own seekers, all its own assets, all its own monsters, and all its own boards. And that's what makes up the game. Really, to get this to the point where it's the full game, you need like the board for the town phase or whatever you want to call it, and some cards and such. You can see here, there's really very little here that isn't already in that box, and it's all basically cardboard or cardstock. So I think this was a misstep. This should have been, and I saw this over and over again on YouTube as I'm watching other videos, that, why the hell isn't this a standalone? Like, it just kind of doesn't make sense. The only reason it's not a standalone is they make people buy all of it. Which probably wasn't working, and so they added Daughters of Draketh, which is a nice option. So that's where I'm at right now. And the reason I didn't end up going all in on this is because Stormsunder exists, basically. So Stormsunder is the other game that Lazy Squire Games has recently kickstarted. So whereas Lavon Rising is more about this kind of smaller scale skirmish type gameplay where you have a couple heroes and a couple of monsters, and narratively, unless you go all in with Lavon Rising, and even if you do go in all in with Lavon Rising, that's not the focus of the game. Whereas Stormsunder is very much in the Madara style, where you get a 400-page storybook, 300-page campaign book, hundreds of hours of gameplay, hundreds of miniatures, even with just the standard pledge. And it's very much a solo cooperative RPG. That is, the design was inspired by BioWare style PC RPGs like Baldur's Gate and such. So a lot of decision making, a lot of kind of ramifications for those decisions. Characters can betray your party and leave if you do things that don't align with their kind of beliefs. And so just another one of these gigantic RPGs that will eat up hundreds of hours of your life. And this game has always looked incredible to me, and I knew that I was going to end up getting something, but again, I get what they're doing here because they put out Heirs of Ruin, but the pledges that you were able to get a whole second expansion or second game, basically, which was the sequel, and then a pledge with the third game, which was the kind of completion of the trilogy. But you're talking about putting $449 in on a game you've never played, and a game like this requires an immense amount of discipline and focus and desire to sit through. You know what I mean? 300-page campaign alone is going to take you months unless you don't have anything to do other than do this. But if you have a full-time job, if you have a family, when the hell are you going to sit down on a daily basis and play this colossal abomination of a game? You know what I mean? Much less the 2 expansions for it. And so this to me feels a little bit like a misstep as well. I would have been much more likely to pledge during the Kickstarter if it had just been this, basically, and some add-ons. But once you throw these in here, then you're starting to introduce doubt. You have people thinking, well, but am I missing out? What if I really like it and I'm not able to get the expansions? And they've done some stuff to mitigate this by being clear about the fact that this stuff will be available later. But even still, I think they would have been better served in terms of the pledges, at least, if they had just launched this and then 2 years later launched this and then this, or maybe these together. That would have been much more palatable to me. But I imagine that there were some serious savings in terms of potentially in terms of like manufacturing and such for this stuff that made it make sense to do it all at once. But I did end up pledging it. I was always going to pledge it. It was just a question of how far I was going to go. And so what I ended up doing was I went with the Heirs of Ruin pledge, which gets you the core game and all the stretch goals. 134 miniatures, 1,800 cards, a 300-page campaign book, etc., etc. And then I added on the early birds and pledge kind of bonuses from that campaign because I didn't pledge it during the campaign. So I added Pharaoh the Last Titan, which is a large miniature that gets used in the game, and then Elise the Lost Princess of Tarpit as well. And then I did add the villains and civilians as well. So what this is it's basically takes cardboard tokens and replacement miniatures used in Heirs of Ruin and replaces them with unique miniatures. So this means that with Heirs of Ruin, you're not going to have any tokens that are representing like a civilian or something like that. You're going to have miniatures for everything, which is very cool. And so I did end up going with that. I did not add the Heirs of Ruin 3D terrain pack. If you watch the channel, you know I love this stuff, but I also backed and deeply backed Dungeons and Lasers, which comes with a variation of all this stuff. Basically, you get pillars, you get statues, you get chests, you get levers, and so I kind of already have all this stuff. And this is exactly the kind of game that I would probably try to play with the full Dungeons and Lasers set. And so for now, I'm hesitating on this, but I may end up going back. We'll see. And so the fact that I knew I needed to late pledge Stormsunder informed what I pledged on Lavon Rising. It's kind of why I didn't end up backing it at a larger level, because I knew I was going to back both. And I love this stuff. I know I'm not going to lose my money on it. And I am the guy who just loves getting a 40-pound box full of board game crap. But at some point, like, it's just an absurd amount of content for any one game, you know? I mean, look at all this crap. This kind of has to be your life for it to make sense. And Stormsunder, definitely, this is a lifestyle game. You're talking about 900 pages worth of campaign play. This is years of your life, you know, for any kind of playing at a standard pace, so adult pace. So while both of these look amazing, at least for now, I'm just going to go with the Heirs of Ruin pledge and with the core box, and then add on some expansions. And I think Lazy Squire they're cognizant of the fact that not everybody wants to spend, between these two games, if you wanted to back everything, you're spending like $1,500. Especially to get it all Stormbrushed, especially. And they know that there's a subset of people who maybe aren't willing to do that. And so I suspect that this stuff will be, the existence of this campaign and the fact that it reprinted the core pledge indicates that they're open to reoffering this stuff at a later date. And, you know, this was a really good deal. This is a really good deal. If you only did the core pledge for this game, this is a hell of a deal. Because you're getting the stretch goals from 2 campaigns, you're getting the game after it's been refined and the miniatures have been completely redone. You're getting a better version of the game than the original backers did for only $20 more. And that $20 is basically just paying for this extra box. So a very, very strong deal in the core pledge here. And I would say the same thing with Heirs of Ruin. Again, this is an absurd amount of content. And if you get to the point where you get through all that content and you really want the additional content, then you're the kind of person who will get that additional content no matter what, right? Like, you'll go on eBay and pay for it. and be happy to do so because you know you're going to get hundreds of hours out of it. I'm not quite there yet, and I have so many of these campaign games and so many coming. So for now, I'm just going to go with the base pledge and add-ons for Stormsunder and the base pledge and add-ons for Wild Assent. But I'm really excited about both of them. I cannot wait. These games look awesome, and I just can't wait to get this stuff and dig into it. So that's it. That's all I had. Sorry, this video ran pretty long, but there's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot going on, and this is kind of two videos because I talked about Stormsunder as well. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you ended up pledging. I'm very interested in having people talking me into pledging everything for both. So make your arguments, and I will hear you out. I promise you that. Beyond that, I will talk to you later.